I suppose I'm visible and audible to everyone, every audience present here.
Yeah, very, very much. So I think if all the students and our today's guest lecturer is ready, we will start with the proceedings. Okay, whether I am audible.
Yeah, to me you are audible.
Yes. So let me first introduce Dr. Navdeep Mhatre. Dr. Navdeep Mhatre has completed his BSc Agri, MSc Agri, and PhD. MSc Agri and PhD both, and BSc he also completed in the Dr. Balasaheb Thome Krishi Vidyapith Dapoli, and he has done excellent work during his MSc. He has done the genetic transformation on the pigeon pea, while during his PhD study he has done the molecular work on the salt tolerance in the rice. Furthermore, he has performed in the various roles in the as a assistant breeder or the breeder in the various private and public enterprises. After completing his MSc, he has joined as a junior research fellow in the Department of Horticulture, where he worked and he was associated with the research work of nutmeg, flowers, and fruit crops. Afterwards, from 2016 to 2017, he joined with another company, that is the Geolife Agriculture Private Limited, where he worked in classical as well as molecular breeding in cereal, tuber crops, and food crops. Afterwards, he also associated with the Kalash Seeds Private Limited, Jalna, where he worked with the sweet corn, okra, and other things. So presently, he is working in the Syngenta Private Limited, where he is working on the hot pepper, okra, cucumber, and tomato. I am very much pleased to tell you that he is having the very good field bias as well as the very softly swimming in the field of molecular technology as well as genetic engineering. So we are fortunate enough and we are happy even that our own product is now today is associated as a faculty, and I think the science is continuously developing. So since he has worked in the private these organizations, we will also like to know what our student has calibrated for the new things. And I think all the today's mass, they will also learn the different activities in the classical or in the molecular breeding that has been done by him. And you will come to know what is his proven track record, how he has performed for the different crops, and he will share his beautiful experiences to work with the different crops. Yes, so Navdeep, I wish you best luck, and I request you that you just
only one thing I want to add here. So today I'm feeling very proud. So on the eve of the Teachers' Day, my student and the student of this university is delivering the lecture as an expert. So it is the beauty of this today's lecture. So I wish him all the best, and I wish all the our participants all the best on this special day. Navdeep, or anybody want to tell something?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
It's Pooja Bhosle, sir. I want to talk a few words, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
First of all, good morning to one and all, and wishing all the teachers a very happy Teachers' Day today. I'm pleased to talk a few words, sir. I just request you. Can I speak a few words, sir?
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Dr. Mhatre, sir, Dr. Savardekar, sir, Deshpande, sir, Sawant, ma'am, and all the organizers, also all the learners of this online training program. I wish you a very happy Teachers' Day. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to get an opportunity to speak a few words about today's occasion. Firstly, I would like to pay my deepest gratitude to Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, a renowned teacher, and whose birth anniversary is celebrated as Teachers' Day countrywide. Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge makes you great. And this learning sense or knowledge is imparted into us by all our teachers. The teacher sees the potential of the students when which no one else can see. They decide the fate of a nation as the youth is in the hands of all the teachers. They encourage us to achieve great heights and become successful. Everyone thinks that it's easy, but the role of teacher is quite challenging and also equally important. It's their responsibility to impart correct knowledge and in the correct manner also. Thus, it is very fair to say that our teachers are the ones who make this world a better place. Moreover, teachers are the ones who play many different roles in our lives, which make all the difference, which make us a good citizen also. We believe that experience is the best teacher. But I would just like to add something to this statement, that having the best teachers in our life is the best experience. So, especially I want to thank Savardekar sir, Deshpande sir, and everyone here, every one of the organizers for organizing such an informative online learning session for all of us in this pandemic situation. Thank you for giving all of us a quite great opportunity to learn new things from all the expert people. Once again, wishing everyone a very happy Teachers' Day. I would like to stop here. Thank you, and all the best to all the learners for learning new things and exploring the platform. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, Pooja, very good. And you have greeted all the teachers as well as the present faculty for this online course. One more thing, I think the aspect of the Navdeep's personality, I forgot to tell you that he was a good bodybuilder and he has having the good proven track record in the field of the sport. So who can build his own body, he can build the scientific activity in very proper perspective and the spirit. So that is the essence of our life. So one should forget that not only the science, but when you are the sports person, you can take anything in sporting manner and you can deliver the thing in that nitty-gritty way. So I think now, rather than me or the Savardekar sir, the mass is interested to listen the Navdeep. And Navdeep, you can start, please.
Thank you so much, sir.
Dhanashri Mhatre, कुठे गेली? एक minute, Navdeep. Navdeep, please. Dhanashri.
Yes, sir, I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So a few words on today's special occasion. I'll just take only 2 minutes. Very good morning to all the speakers, the participants and organizers. I would like to thank all the organizers for arranging such an resourceful, knowledgeable and a great platform to explore the field. Hoping all are safe and sound, I would be wishing Happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers present in the session today. Teaching is the mother of all professions, right from the traditional teaching method of blackboard and chalk to today's situation of online classes and sharing our thoughts through standing behind the screen. It is very difficult for us to do all this and it is very new to us. But yet teachers have not stopped the flow of knowledge and they have kept the students going as well as doing their jobs with great flexibility in the teaching techniques which are new to all of us. As it is rightly said that the knowledge is good and teachers are the driving force. Role of teacher is not just limited to a classroom but to shape an individual's mental personality and knowledge growth. Teachers' Day reminds us of responsibilities and commitments towards shaping the future generations in taking up higher challenges and making our country prosper with knowledge and development. Lastly, I would like to end my words saying, a teacher is a friend, philosopher, path-guiding light who instills confidence in young minds and gives them a hope to dream. Today is the day where we all should acknowledge this fact and express gratitude to our teachers. And I once again wish all the teachers a happy Teachers' Day. And I end my words here. Thank you, sir, for giving me opportunity to speak here.
Savardekar sir, Navdeep sir, Mrinalini here.
So this one is the last, huh?
Yes, sir, Mrinalini sir, please sir, let me in, sir.
Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity Hello, good morning. Good morning to everyone. First of all, happy Teachers' Day to Savardekar sir, Deshpande sir, Sawant ma'am, and Navdeep sir. Sir, I am short of words today, but today I want to speak because this year it has been a lot of bad for everybody. 2020, we will remember it as a lesson for everybody. But this 2020 is on the good side for me for some reasons. First of all, I would like to share my experience of working at CBC Dapoli because working at CBC Dapoli, learning here has been a turning point in my life. We say that we get education all throughout our, right from our nursery to our graduation. But I feel whatever like foundation I've got, that was at CBC Dapoli because of getting a guide like Savardekar sir. Sir, I really appreciate of how a strict guide you are, and I really love you for that, sir. Because you are like a coconut, sir. You are very tough from inside, but you are very soft from inside, sir. I have experienced that. Navdeep sir and other seniors who helped me during my project work and other things. Like, sir, in 2020, after all this pandemic, I was wondering that what should we do in future? Because future we have to do something of our own. And as the teacher guides us, same way, this was a turning point and this was a guiding light that you introduced such an online training session, which is really it is a very good opportunity for each and everyone, sir. So I would like to thank you for that. And please keep on guiding us like this in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I think we'll stop here. We'll stop the session and we'll start the Navdeep sir session. Okay, Dr. Navdeep, please.
If anyone else wants to talk, then they can continue. It will be easy for me to wind up everything in a shorter period. Okay, actually, happy Teachers' Day to all the participants and the teacher faculty that we have here. And Deshpande sir, Savardekar sir, that was the sweetest introduction that I ever had in my life about me. Thanks for Pooja, Dhanashri, and Runalini for their introductory comments on the occasion of Teachers' Day. Especially Runalini, thank you very much for your kind words and the appreciation. And as rightly said by Pooja, Dhanashri, and Runalini, the teachers, they are the guiding lights for our path in the future. Okay, they give us the confidence and the dreams and hope to dream to achieve the bigger things in the life. So at this moment, now I thank Savardekar sir, Deshpande sir for being that the guiding light for my career. Especially Savardekar sir, he was my guide in my MSc research program. So he has trained me and groomed me in such a way that now I'm that much confident in professional life or career to face the challenges that come in day-to-day working life. Deshpande sir, he was there teaching me a physiology course during my MSc. Unfortunately, we could not have him for the longer period as he moved to other research station. But I would have loved to have him in other, or hearing him, or to learn things from him in other courses too. But still, it's it's a part of life, part of career. But thanks everyone, and once again, very happy Teachers' Day to all. And I think this is the time I should proceed further with my presentation. And
Now, please just share the slides.
yeah, I will. So I guess my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, you go to the PPT mode.
Yeah. So I suppose my screen is visible. My presentation is visible to everyone.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So today, my presentation topic will be plant breeding, the journey over the time and the technological adoptions in of plant breeding techniques in seed companies. So, hello, hello.
Yes, I know the
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, here.
So, as Deshpande sir has already introduced me, so I will also want to give a light on my academic as well as professional progress. So I completed my BSc, MSc, and PhD from the Dr. Babasaheb Sawant Kokon Krishi Vidyapit Dapoli. So during my MSc research, my research topic was agrobacterium mediated genetic transformation of pigeon pea for pod borer resistance. I did my PhD on the PhD research study on the integration of salt tolerance gene in rice variety Karza 6 using marker assisted selection. And in my professional career, I have worked as while doing PhD, I was working as a junior research fellow in the Department of Horticulture on the PPUFRA project that was development of descriptors, dust guidelines in nutmeg. So post PhD, I was working as a research executive in Jolife Agritech India Private Limited, based at Pune. Then I moved into the role of plant breeder into the Kalash Seeds Private Limited, Jalna, but my headquarters was in Gujarat, Vadali. Then I got an opportunity to work as an assistant breeder for wheat in the Syngenta India Limited, Pune. The corporate office is in Pune, but I was based in Karnal, Haryana. Then I moved into the role of biological operations lead within the organization Syngenta, and right now I'm working. I'm headquartered at Aurangabad. So this is my brief, or you can say uh, detailed career and academic progress. So now I will move to our core uh, subject, that is plant breeding. What is plant breeding? So as we know, by the definition of it, plant breeding is an art, science, and technology of changing the heredity of crop plants in a such a way that it will help humankind, uh, or it will serve the human welfare. So what is the nature of plant breeding? How it is art? So uh, uh, after the civilization, so it has been an art of selection of desirable plant types. Even today also, we select desirable plant type according to our choice, according to our need. So it is an art of selecting plants. Why it is a science? So as the knowledge of genetics, science, it is science because we need to know the knowledge of genetics. We need to have the knowledge of genetics uh, and other related science to the plant breeding. Uh, then it is a technology. As the time is moving, new innovative technologies being incorporated into the plant breeding. So it is a technology. Okay, sorry. So why plant breeding is important? As we know, plant breeding gives us the advantages of improving the plants or the crop varieties, developing new crop varieties, improving the varieties for their yield, improving the plants for their characteristics for the protein content, oil content, improving the crop plants for the different biotic and abiotic stresses. Okay, so why it is so important? Why plant breeding is needed? So it is estimated that the population will increase as high as 9.7 billion by 2050. To feed those population, okay, to that increased population, we need to have the improved varieties, high yielding varieties. We have to improve our productivity and production. So plant breeding is plays the vital role here to develop new and high yielding varieties. So it is important to squeeze the arable land due to urbanization and industrial development. So it is important to develop the varieties which will give higher yield in the less available land. So there are other difficulties like erratic rainfalls are there, frequent floods are there, prolonged drought conditions are there. So those are the factors which we have to tackle by the breeding to develop the varieties, drought resistant varieties, salt tolerant varieties, flood submergence tolerance varieties. And the breeding, the field of breeding, or the scientists, the breeders, they are doing that. They're day by day they are improving the characteristics of plant. They are modifying the plants in a such a way that that will benefit the humankind. So that's why we need, that's why breeding is so important in our life. So what is the role of plant breeding in human beings or the human life? So it provides us food either directly or indirectly. Directly in the form of food grains, or indirectly as the meat or meat that we use, that we have daily. It gives shelters to the human beings. In addition to the food that we produce from the agriculture farms, we also uh, agriculture also gives the shelter to farmers of the rural areas. It gives clothing, means by breeding crops for the fiber crops like cotton provides clothes for the human population. Means we by processing cotton we get uh, clothing. Then fuel, means like crops like euphorbia, jatropha are used as a biofuel. Maize is also used as an important source of ethanol production. In the drugs discovery, breeding of medicinal plants plays an important role. So many secondary metabolites are extracted from the different crops. Okay, so breeding also helps in developing or identifying plants with a higher content of secondary metabolites. Inter, uh, so entertainment. So many private companies or the public sector institute, they are working in the improving flower crops, floriculture. So breeding is also plays vital role in the development of this flower crops or improving flower crops. So activities, what are the activities that are done in the plant breeding? So majorly we focus that at the creation of variation by in the plant breeding. Okay, by one means or so or other, we are going to create a variation that will help us in getting the desirable plants or desirable varieties, desirable characters, traits in our plants. Okay, so uh, uh, starting uh, from the pre-Mendelian era or the civilization of humankind, so many breeding techniques have been adopted, starting from selection. So so selection, plant adoption, domestication, germplasm collection from different gene pools, their hybridization, mutating those plants for the betterment of humankind, then polyploid breeding, so maclonal variation, genetic engineering, incorporating gene of interest into the cultivated species. Those are all aimed at creation of variation. So these are the activities which are performed in the plant breeding. So history of plant breeding, how far it goes. It goes far, 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 as back as 10,000 BC, where uh, agriculture started. People started to grow crops. They started selecting varieties or plant types which suited them, which had the desirable characteristics into them. So in pre-Mendelian era, we can divide the history of plant breeding into majorly four parts. It is like a pre-Mendelian era where so many scientists work for developing the new crop types or improving the plant types. So notable mentions here are Thomas Fairchild. He developed first artificial hybrid that we called Fairchild's mule. Then, does somebody want to say something? Hello.
No, Deep, you continue.
Okay. Thank you. Then Mendelian era comes, so we call it to be in between 19th century to 1900 to 1920. Actually, Mendel worked in the year of 1866. He published his studies in the Natural History Society, but his research or his findings were neglected that time. But it took the year of 1900 1901, where Carl Correns, Shermack, Hugo de Vries, they collectively or they independently rediscovered his finding. Okay, then only his work got recognized. Then comes the post-Mendelian era, that is 1921 to 1950, when the work on the gene, the concept of gene genetics, genotype were introduced, where people started to work on the traits. So then the DNA, double helical structure of DNA was proposed by Watson and Crick. So many jumping gene or the uh, jumping gene term was coined. Then comes the modern era after 1950, when the PCR technique was developed, marker technique was developed, genetic engineering engineering techniques were developed, transgenic crop came into existence, where we can transfer the gene from unrelated species to the target species or target crop. Green revolution happened. We moved from the low yielding tall varieties to the high yielding semi dwarf or dwarf varieties. Then the CRISPR-Cas technology also developed. So many uh, things have been uh, founded, have discovered, and that's why we are even though the population is increasing, available land for the cultivation is decreasing, we are able to feed the increasing population, and that uh, in and even in the future also we will need uh, improved varieties to feed the increasing human population. So what are the conventional breeding technologies we know so far? So those are introduction, selection, then selection of desirable plant types, pure line selection from the population, then mass selection, pedigree method of selection, population improvement techniques. There are inbred development techniques, composite and synthetic varieties are there, heterosis breeding, where we develop hybrids by crossing two distantly related distantly related species and develop high yielding varieties, backcross breeding for the transfer of resistance trait. So those are the conventional breeding techniques that we know. So uh, so far it means the field of plant breeding, we know the conventional plant breeding, and though conventional plant breeding have method have given so many, or have with the help of conventional plant breeding we have improved crop plants, and it had an tremendous impact on the agriculture productive over the last decades, the conventional plant breeding technique. But even though that techniques had the big impact on the productivity and the production of the crop plants, conventional plant breeding has some disadvantages or limitations too. So by conventional plant breeding, we can only do the breeding in between two plants that can be sexually mate with each other. We can only transfer the characters uh, uh, between the species which can sexually fuse or mate with each other. There there is limitation in the transfer of new traits. Transfer of undesirable characters is also there, that we call as a linkage drag. Then unwanted plant types or hybrid characters are obtained in that. So examples are Raphanobrassica or Pomato. It is time and also space consuming, and it requires creation of artificial screening setup for when we are going for the resistance breeding. So those are the limitations of conventional plant breeding. So what are the advanced biotechnological and molecular techniques? So many of us have known that there are different molecular and biotechnological approaches for the crop improvement. So in cell biology, plant tissue culture, we adopt plant tissue culture. Hello. I request everyone to keep their Zoom meeting on mute, so that there should not be any disturbance to other audience. It's my humble request to everyone.
एक मिनिट हाँ सर एक मिनिट Just mind it well, otherwise I will remove you. Huh? इच्छा आहे दिसते मला पण तो हे होत नाही क्लिक होत नाही हाँ
Yeah.
okay yes
Yeah, no problem, sir. So in cell biology, there are plant tissue culture techniques, DH technology is there, anther culture, embryo culture, pollen culture, callus culture techniques are there, where we can get two type plants from the plant tissue culture. In molecular biology, there are genetic engineering techniques where we can get transgenic plants, DNA fingerprinting techniques are there, marker assisted selection technique is there. After the discovery of molecular markers, the time required in the molecular or the conventional plant breeding, it has been reduced, or even we can select the generations or the desirable plant types even at the earlier generation. So marker assisted selection techniques are there, marker assisted backcross technique is there, where we can transfer the resistance character with the help of molecular marker. Marker assisted gene pyramiding technique is there, quantitative trait loci is there, technique is there, where we can identify or find the location of the trait of interest. Genomic selection techniques are there, CRISPR-Cas technique is there. So these are the advanced biotechnological and molecular techniques that we know. So In the non-conventional methods of crop improvements, it has been developed, the non-conventional or the biotechnological or the molecular techniques have been developed over the last 50 years, and after the discovery of DNA. So identical or true to type plants can be produced by the use of tissue culture techniques. As we know, DNA has a genetic material which has the genetic code which in the form of genes. Then genome mapping or sequencing has given insights on the traits of genes available in the genotype. Molecular markers are developed for the crop improvement. So, and the transgenic crops are developed which have the gene from unrelated organisms, conferring the resistance against the target pest or disease or a stress. So, we'll compare between the conventional plant breeding and molecular plant breeding here. So, what are the limitations of conventional plant breeding? So, conventional plant breeding is limited to exchanges between the same or very closely related species, whereas non-conventional breeding method gives us the privilege to have a direct transfer of the genes or just a few genes between closely or distantly related organisms. There is a little or no guarantee of any particular gene combination from the million of crosses generated from the conventional breeding method, while target gene can be transferred with the accurate identification of the transferred gene or trait of interest by the non-conventional method by the use of molecular markers. So undesirable genes, that means linkage drag, can be transferred along with the desirable genes in conventional breeding of method, whereas non-conventional methods gives us or allows plant to be modified by removing or switching off particular gene. Conventional breeding methods takes a long time to achieve desired results, and even the results can be false positive, whereas non-conventional methods gives improve the crop plants in a shorter period of time compared to conventional breeding methods. So conventional breeding methods are time and space consuming, less accurate, needed more crop cycles, large population to be handled, needs to be handled, and gives false positive results. Whereas non-conventional methods of or molecular breeding methods are less time and space consuming, more accurate, needs more less crop cycles, small population size is required, precise results are there. The only disadvantage here or limitation is there, okay, those are costly and need high or sophisticated equipment and setup. So we'll go in brief about the biotechnological and molecular techniques that we know. So one of the biotechnological approach is plant tissue culture. So tissue culture is the cultivation of plant cells, tissues, or organs on specially formulated nutrient media. So under the right conditions of light and temperature, an entire plant can be regenerated from a single cell. Plant tissue culture is a technique that has been around for more than 30 years now. And there are several types of tissue culture techniques depending on the plant part of the plant that is used, such as anther culture, meristem culture, pollen culture, callus culture. So major advantages of plant tissue culture are there. Okay, we get multiple plants from the single cell or single tissue of the plant. True to type plants can be achieved where in the plants where sexual reproduction is not possible. In that plant we can in that species we can adopt the plant tissue culture technique, where from a single cell we can produce multiple copies of that plant. So this is the anther culture technique in rice, from single anther we can produce a whole plant or number of plants of that crop. So other methods of plant tissue culture are micropropagation, embryo rescue technology is there, somaclonal variation there is there, from means and from somacolonial variation is there, pollen culture is there, ovary culture is there, and I would like to mention here here is that Dr. B.S. Kekevi Dapoli has developed somacolonial variation or selected somacolonial variants in Nagli, and I guess they have proposed varietal identification or varietal registration for that.
That is, we have developed a variety. It is released now.
Yeah. Congratulations. So another technique is that DS technology, from where we can fix the line or fix the hybrid as our which can be used as a parent in breeding population. So here, what are the steps involved in the induction of haploidy, or how can we produce the DH plants, double haploid plants? So as we know, what is haploid? Which haploid means an individual which has the a single set of chromosome or single chromosome, not a set of chromosome, a single chromosome, single set of chromosome. So that plant, or it has the gametic number or n number of n chromosome complement. So it is a haploid plant. So by the DH technology or double haploid technology, by chromosome doubling, we can fix a line by induction of haploidy into that. So what are the steps involved? So first is induction of haploidy, then identification of haploid plants, then artificial chromosome doubling, and self-pollination for seed multiplication of the chromosome doubled plants. So here is one example of haploid induction, where a haploid haploid inducer is used to induce induce haploidy in a hybrid. So here a marker character is used, that is R1NJ color marker is there, which is present in the seed. So it is a mutant gene, okay, which is marker character inserted into that haploid inducer line. So here we can induce with the help of inducer, we can induce haploid plants into any maize line. So this is the schematic representation of how haploid can be induced. So here this is the DH donor, that is where we want to which we want to turn into DH, double haploid. So this is inducer kernel color, which has purple embryo and alluron content. We have crossed those lines. So here you can see this the one that we have got. It has a haploid seed. It has colorless embryo and purple alluron, while as diploid seed has purple embryo and purple alluron. So after the transfer of or inducing the haploid, we will go for germination of haploid seeds. We cut the coleoptile consecutively for 3 days. Then we go for colchicine treatment to those germinated seeds. Then we plant those treated plants into the pot, and those plants which have recovered, obviously those plants will be weaker, means sterile plants or haploid plants will be weaker. But after the chromosome doubling, those plants which have been established will go for the transplanting into the field. So those fixed lines, we will get the fixed line from the DS technology, which can be used as the breeding lines or the populations of the parents for the improvement or transfer of the character into the other varieties or genotypes. Then I will move to the DNA fingerprinting. What is DNA fingerprinting? DNA fingerprinting is also called as DNA typing or DNA profiling, genotyping or identity testing. It is a genetical method used for the isolating and identification the best pair pattern in individual DNA. So why DNA fingerprinting is useful? So it is useful in the paternity and maternity test of the hybrid, then plant variety protection, genetic purity test, study of the biodiversity among the population, and tracking of genetically modified crops. So how does DNA fingerprinting move? So here is an example of DNA fingerprinting by using the DNA in paternity and maternity test of plant variety. So here you can see it is the banding pattern of female parent. It is the banding pattern of the male parent. And F1 here we can see it has the bands from both the parent. Okay, so another sample is there where we have the same female but the male was different. So here we have got the banding pattern as similar to that of female. So here what we we identify the unique bands that are produced by the molecular marker. So for the fingerprinting, mostly ISSR markers are used as those produce unique markers, and ISSR markers are distributed throughout the genome, and those are present abundantly in the genome. So based on the banding pattern produced by the individuals, we can identify the unique line or the genotype. So DNA fingerprinting is also useful to find the genetic distance between the individual. Means by doing the population biodiversity analysis, we can find the genetic distance between the or we can identify how closely or distantly individuals are related, and we can do the cluster analysis. From there we can select individuals those are distantly related. Those we can select for the hybridization or to get the desirable plant types. So what is molecular plant breeding? So as we know, there are some characters which are governed by the single gene, which we call those characters as the polygenic monogenic characters. But some complex characters are there, means like yield, oil content, protein content, which are governed by the many characters, plant height. So which are governed by the many characters. So those characters are known as the polygenic characters. So conventionally, what plant breeders were doing, they were selecting the plants based on their visible characters. That was which we called as the phenotype. But most of the times, phenotypic expressions is dependent upon the environmental, means genotype into environmental interaction. So phenotype gives the phenotype. Genotypic and environmental interaction gives us phenotype. So the selection that conventionally plant breeders were doing the selection of based on phenotype, but that selection was most of the times was influenced by the environment, and it could have been false selection. But by the use of molecular techniques, molecular plant breeding, we can identify the genes or genes related or genotype of the plants and the genes responsible for the expression of the phenotype or the trait of interest. So By the use of molecular markers, we can select the individuals at the early generation, even at the seedling stage, by knowing the genes responsible or the responsible for the trait of interest, which can reduce the cost of our breeding program. Then which can also reduce the time period or cycle time for breeding, and which can we can screen the individuals more efficiently by the use of molecular markers. So which are the molecular breeding methods? So marker assisted selection, marker assisted backcross breeding, marker assisted gene pyramiding, marker assisted recurrent selection, quantitative trait loci, genomic selection are the molecular breeding methods that are uh, more frequently used nowadays, or which are very common nowadays in the public sector as well as private sector institutes. So how marker assisted selection works? So the main advantage of marker assisted selection is that early generation selection. So previously, what in conventional breeding, what breeder used to do, they were crossing two individuals. They were going for the hybridization. Then from F1 generation, they were developing F2 population, where large population was needed to be handled. From there, uh, uh, desirable plants were selected based on their phenotypes. Okay, their progeny rows were grown. From there, the similar type of individuals were birthed, and then the plants or the varieties were developed. But by the use of marker assisted selection, we can identify individuals at the early F1 generation only. Okay, and only the desirable the plants having the desirable or traits of interest, we can keep those individuals only, and we can perform selection uh, in in those lines. So that will reduce the number population size and the time required to develop a new variety or genotype. So the main advantage is to discard many plants with unwanted gene combinations, and especially those that lack essential disease resistance or trait of interest. So this is important in the latter stages of breeding program, because the evaluation for other traits can be more efficiently and cheaply designed for the fewer breeding lines. So marker assisted backcross. What we do in marker assisted backcross? So marker assisted backcross aims to transfer one or few genes or QTLs of interest from one genetic background into a superior cultivar or elite breeding line to improve the targeted trait. So in that, two levels of selections are performed in the backcross breeding method. First one is the foreground selection, where we select backcross progeny carrying the target gene with tightly linked to flanking markers. And second is background selection, where we select backcross progeny with background markers to accelerate the recovery of the recurrent parent genome. So here is the schematic representation of how we go for the foreground selection and background selection. Here you can see one parent is there, donor parent and a recurrent parent. The donor parent, donor parent carries the gene of interest or resistance character, and recurrent parent has the agronomic superior background. We go for the crossing. Then we cross the individuals. We get the F1 from there. Okay. To in F1 generation, we perform foreground selection with the help of the linked marker. Those individuals where we have those individuals which have the heterotic nature or heterozygous nature, we cross them or back cross them with the recurrent parent. we develop a BC1 F1 population. We do the foreground selection over there. Those individuals which have the trait marker or trait of interest in them, we go for the background selection. Then background selection, and we keep only those individuals which have the background genome, okay, and or we which have the more recovery of background genome. So here you can see after the backcross, these individuals have the trait of interest and genome of this individual that is or recurrent parent, which is superior in agronomic qualities. So we again go for the backcross, repeated backcross, and we try to recover the more genome of recurrent parent. Okay, then we select those individuals which have the trait of interest and the genome of recurrent parent. So here you can see these individuals are carrying the trait of interest and also the genome of recurrent parent, but that this particular individual has the trait of interest and more genome or genome of the recurrent parent, which means the more genome has been recovered, more frequency of recurrent parent genome frequency has been recovered here. So only those individuals can be selected and multiplied, and which completes our marker-assisted backcross program. Here is the molecular breeding method, that is marker-assisted backcross program. One more schematic representation where we go with the crossing of P1 and P2. This one is a resistant parent. This is a recurrent parent. This is donor parent, a recurrent parent. We develop F1, which has the genome of both the parents. Okay, we develop backcross them with the recurrent parent. Then we develop BC1 F1 population, which has the genome of both the individuals. Then we go for the more genome recovery, repeated backcrossing, and then after 2-3 backcrosses, we try to identify the individuals which have the more genome recovery of recurrent parent. So here you can see the individual which has the more genome recovery of recurrent parent and has the trait of interest in that. So another method of molecular breeding is that marker-assisted gene pyramiding. So why we go for the gene pyramiding? So what is actually a gene pyramiding? Gene pyramiding is the process of combining multiple genes or QTS together into a single genotype, where genotype through conventional breeding, but which was extremely difficult or impossible at early generations. DNA markers selection. A single gene. This is possible through conventional breeding, but extremely difficult or impossible at early generations. DNA markers may facilitate selection because DNA marker assays are non-destructive. Means which we don't have to go for the plant destruction. Markers for multiple specific genes can be tested without phenotyping, and the most widespread application for pyramiding has been for combining multiple disease resistance genes in order to develop durable disease resistance. So how it works? How the marker-assisted pyramiding works? So suppose one parent is there which is resistance to bacterial leaf blight, one strain of bacterial leaf blight, but it is susceptible to other race, while parent 2 is susceptible to the first trace of bacterial leaf blight, but resistant to second trace. So what we will do here, so we want to add both the characters into a single cultivar or single individual, single genotype. We want to develop a genotype in a such a way that it will carry both the resistance genes. So in the for this we'll cross plant first both the parent will generate F1, then we will develop the F2 population from there, segregating population, and there we'll phenotype those. We'll do the phenotypic selection of those individuals. So there we can find some individuals which will be resistant to RES1, some susceptible to RES2. But at Markle, that individuals may show resistance to both the character, both the races, or both the disease caused by that gene, that particular races, biotypes. In that case, we'll go for the genotyping, and those individuals which are carrying only the trait of interest or the marker character of that for that particular resistant reaction, those individuals can only be selected and a line or desirable line can be developed. So some of the examples of gene pyramiding or the achievements of marker-assisted gene pyramiding in rice, blight-resistant genes like XA4, 5, XA13, 21 have been incorporated. In wheat, leaf rust resistance, powdery mildew resistance gene have been pyramided. Then in cotton, insect pest resistance, in pea, barley, and soybean, nodulation ability, yellow mosaic virus resistance, soybean mosaic virus resistance, sorry for my tone, have been pyramided into elite lines. So this is the improved IR64 with XA5, XA7, and XA21 gene pyramided into that, where you can see the susceptible line is there and resistant line where it has been developed with the help of gene pyramiding. Marker assisted recurrent selection. When much of the variation is controlled by many minor genes or QTLs, marker assisted backcross has limited application because its estimates of effects are inconsistent and gene pyramiding becomes increasingly difficult. Means when the characters or the trait of interest is governed by many small genes, then marker assisted gene pyramiding is very difficult. In that case, marker assisted recurrent selection is adopted. It is a more effective strategy to deploy marker assisted recurrent selection to increase the frequency of favorable marker alleles in the population. Marker assisted recurrent selection involves defining a selection index for F2 or F2 derived progenies. We use that index to weigh the significant marker for target QTLs. Suppose 20 to 30 QTLs are there. Then we go for recommending self progenies of the selected individuals and repeat the procedure for a number of cycles. Then another strategy, or rather a new strategy, is that genomic selection. So what is genomic selection? In genomic selection, we improve the quantitative traits in large plant breeding populations that uses whole genome molecular markers and combines marker data with phenotypic data in an attempt to increase the accuracy of the prediction of breeding and genotypic values of the individual. So So in genomic selection, objective of genomic selection is to predict the breeding of value of each individual instead of identifying the QTL for use in the traditional marker state selection method or program. So it requires high density molecular markers, the markers which are abundantly available in the genome. Then genomic selection considers the effect of all markers together and captures most of the additive variation. Marker effects are first estimated based on the so-called training population that needs to be sufficiently large. Population means the population size should be more than 300 individuals. Breeding value is then predicted for each genotype in the testing population using the estimated marker effect. So now we have discussed about the breeding methods, that is conventional and molecular plant breeding method. So now I will go for I will tell you about the organization, what we do at Syngenta, or who we are. So Syngenta is one of the leading agri-input company with its global headquarters in Basel, Switzerland. So in Basel, we have our headquarters for the agrochemicals division. In US, we have our headquarters for seeds division. Syngenta operates in more than 90 countries. It is global leader in agrochemical business. It ranks first in agrochemical business. It is the third biggest seed company in the world. And we are proud that we provide a world-class crop protection solution and seed to the biggest community of the world, that are farmers. In India, in the APAC region, there are 4 regions that we deal in. APAC, that is Asia Pacific, then Europe, Latin America, and NAFTA. Then, we in India, Syngenta deals in seed business or R&D of rice, corn, sweet corn, watermelon, bell pepper, hot pepper, tomato, cabbage, cauliflower, cucumber, okra, radish, tea, and beans. So Syngenta works extensively to bring the top quality products to the farmers to improve their livelihood, and it also works in or involved in the many CSR activities where we provide basic needs to the schools. We try to improve the livelihood of the rural people by the CSR activities. So at our R&D station here in Aurangabad, what we do? So there are 5 main parts that we do. So we do the agronomy, means we manage crop management practices in okra, tomato, hot pepper, and cucumber crops. Breeding in those 4 crops. Pathological aspects are that disease screening and selection methods are performed. In entomological department, pest screening techniques are adopted, and in biotechnology we go for DH production in HP and cauliflower. So in agronomy, we do agronomy or crop management in hot pepper, cucumber, tomato, and okra. In plant breeding part, we are doing in hot pepper, we are going for single seed descent method. We are going for the parent purification by the use of SNP markers. We call it SNP marker assisted backcross, that is my technique, selection and hybridization. In cucumber also we go for SSD, SNP selection, hybridization, and marker assisted backcross. In tomato and okra, the techniques are moreover similar as to hot pepper and cucumber. So these are some of the insights on marker assisted backcross program in hot pepper. This is the SNP trial in cucumber. This is the fast backcross trial in tomato, and we are going. This is the hybridization block of okra. In pathology and entomology department, we are screening tomato genotypes for the early blight, TOSPO, TMV, CMV, TYMV. Hot pepper, we are screening the population for chili leaf curl virus, anthracnose disease, chili mosaic virus, begomoviruses, thrips, and whitefly. Okra, we are screening okra genotypes for yellow vein mosaic virus, okra early leaf curl virus, jacids and aphids. In cucumber, genotype means or the individuals are screened for the CMV, cucumber mosaic virus, zucchini yellow mosaic virus, powdery mildew, downy mildew. So these are the screening pathological screening blocks of this is the hot pepper begomovirus screening block or CLCV screening block. This is anthracnose screening block. This is the OLC and YVME screening block of okra, and this is the downy mildew screening block of cucumber. So in tissue culture, we developed the DH0 plants of hot pepper and cauliflower and cabbage. So this is the DH0 plant of hot pepper, and this is the mother plant of cauliflower for the DH0 production. This is the insight on how we go for the single seed descent method. So as we know that single seed descent method is the modified form of mass selection. So here what we do, we go for the fast breeding or fast multiplication or fast selection of individuals. So by the developed technology or technology developed at our R&D farm, we spray some set of chemicals on the plants where we try to modify the morphology of plant and try to get 1 to 2 fruits from that, where we only intend to grow only one single seed. So this is the SSD block of tomato, and this is the SSD block of hot pepper. These are the hybrid seed production blocks of tomato, where we produce tomato hybrids. Also, we produce the okra hybrids, hot pepper hybrids, cucumber hybrids. This is the fast backcross block of tomato. You can see the fruit setting that we have got through fast backcross method. So these are the techniques that we adopt at the Syngenta, and there is a wide scope for the breeders or the talents that is available in the public sector institutes or the various state agriculture universities to enter into Syngenta for as the DS scientist, as the breeders, or the pathologist, as entomologist. So many roles are there. Where Syngenta offers. Currently, we were having one scientist here. He was a student or a product of IRI. He joined Syngenta as an assistant breeder for hot pepper, but later on Syngenta served him a platform for his professional career, and then he moved from Syngenta by taking experience and at Syngenta he moved into the role of associate scientist at ICRISAT. One scientist was there. He was working here as an assistant trade project lead in pathology department. But so he was very organized. He was very sincere. Then he moved into the role of technical manager fungicides at the global or APAC level. So talent, there is recognition for talent at Syngenta. and I encourage the students of biotechnology and breeding to work sincerely on their projects. And there are so many institutes out there who are ready to hire you at good position. Thank you. So any this was all about my presentations. Sorry that I had to hurry as the time was.
No, you're finished within a time.
Yeah, thank you. So if there are any queries or suggestion you want to tell, then we can have an interactive session, I guess. So thanks thanks everyone, and sorry if I missed or I was not clear on any topic.
So please share your mail ID. Can you able to share your mail ID?
Sorry, sir.
Please share your mail ID.
Yeah.
So if possible, you type here only so that the people can.
Yeah. So I've stopped sharing my screen,
Yeah.
and for everyone I'm giving my mail ID.
Please see the chat box. He is putting his mail ID. No.
Yes.
Okay, he has given his mail ID, that is Navdeep_Krishna.Mhatre@syngenta.com. Yeah, now this is there is a time of the discussion. So there are some questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
So this is from the Akanksha,
Yeah.
TB136. Conventional breeding versus mass, which one is better?
Without the help of thanks Akanksha for your question. Obviously.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Akanksha, please.
Yes, sir.
Akanksha, please.
So
Please ask your question.
I would answer Akanksha's question.
Yes, sir.
Without conventional breeding, you cannot go for marker assisted selection. If there is no breeding or conventional breeding, you cannot apply marker assisted selection to that. The benefit of selection is that we, with the help of hello.
Okay, continue.
With the help of marker assisted selection, we can speed up the breeding program. With the help of marker assisted selection, we can speed up the plant breeding program. So obviously, no doubt, with the help of conventional plant breeding, we have developed so many varieties or the genotypes which serve as the population for the future crop improvement. But now, with the help of marker assisted selection or the molecular marker or the non-conventional plant breeding method, we can speed up the conventional plant breeding methods.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
There is another question from the
Pooja Bhosle.
Pooja Bhosle.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Ah,
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I would like to know more about fast backcross method, sir.
Okay. So fast backcross. What is fast backcross? What
Yes,
we
sir.
usually do in the fast backcross. Okay. We have developed a technique where we shorten the life cycle of the plants.
Okay, sir.
Okay. In that, what we do, we target a specific number of seeds. Okay, at every generation. We don't have
Okay.
to go for the full, means it is only possible in the fruit crops, I guess, as far as I know. So what we do, as we get so many clusters in the vegetable crops, means you cannot, we don't usually harvest vegetable crops at once, right? We have
Yes.
usually have 4 to 5 or 7 to 8
iPhone.
harvesting. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so in that fast backcross, what we do, we target a specific number or a specified number of seeds. Suppose we want to produce only 500 seeds. Okay,
Okay.
so from the single cross or from the first harvest itself, we target 500 seeds. Okay, and then we
Okay.
don't, we discard the plants at that stage only. We don't go for the whole plant life cycle. So
Okay.
in that way, when the plant life cycle, full life cycle is, if it is of 150 days, by the fast backcross you can get your backcross seed in 90 to 100 days itself. So by that technique, you can get 3 to 4 generations within a single year.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you
that
so
is
much,
fast
sir.
backcross.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
बोला.
Sir. Sir, my question is about DNA fingerprinting, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, how can we establish a small lab of DNA fingerprinting and hybrid testing?
Actually, establishing a small lab, you have actually, when you are going for the DNA lab or fingerprinting lab or lab for hybrid testing, you need to have to be careful. You should have all the equipment required for that particular or the purpose that you want to serve, right? So um, means you are in or what we can say, the lab conditions depend on the size that you want to, or the sample size that you want to target.
And sir, any certification is necessary for that?
That I really don't know,
Yeah.
because we have
Okay.
genotyping lab. Actually, we have do have genotyping lab at Singapore and France. We
Okay,
don't
sir.
have any genotyping lab here in India for Syngenta. We have
Actually,
Singapore and France.
Yes, sir.
sir. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Dhanapurkar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so whenever you want
Thank.
to printing lab, so whatever the equipment required for the molecular biology, and particularly the PCR, GelDoc, then the documentation system, then the DNA isolation kit and all these things.
PCR
Even
machine,
the autoclave and all these things
you
is
need
required. Okay.
Okay,
Same time we require this certification also from the central government. So we cannot able to give the bare fingerprinting.
Actually, sir. Actually,
That labs are the
sir.
very, yeah,
We
sorry.
have the course that is DNA fingerprinting and hybrid test is for entrepreneurship, to develop an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
therefore I have asked such question.
Yes, yes. There is a protocol, there is a procedure also.
One more thing is we have the course. And then when you will get the time, you take the student to one of the renowned institute, that the CDFD, Center for DNA Fingerprinting and Diagnostic at Hyderabad. That is the pioneering institute in the DNA fingerprinting technique. Even in the legal terms or code of law, they are taking the help of that particular institute for the plant as well as any biological sample. So take your students to that institute. That will be good exposure. Okay. That is
Okay,
they will
sir.
know how it is done.
So now the number of people are developing the entrepreneurship, particularly because most of the private companies or even public sectors. So they are not interested to establish their own lab because the maintenance of these things are very. So they are doing the outsourcing of this. So there is a great opportunity for all the students to establish such type of the lab, but the certification is required for that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Now, even I would like to add one more thing. Even this DNA fingerprinting and all these molecular techniques, how they are commercially viable or useful. That whenever there is a, I think Navdeep is knowing very well, that whenever there is a seed adulteration and these cases to the our institute, just like the agriculture university, that you go for the profiling and go for the authenticity of that particular seed sample, and that seed identity, genetic purity of that particular seed lot is established with the help of the DNA fingerprinting only. Am I correct, or Navdeep, you will add something? Yeah, you are not audible.
Navdeep, you are not audible. You are mute.
Yeah. So sorry, as I was on mute. Yeah. Many of the private companies, they have the seed technology lab, seed tech lab, where they do biochemical analysis or seed purity. They analyze the seed purity, and they also do the fingerprinting of that for the, on that particular variety.
Yeah. So there is another question in the chat box. That is 136 Akanksha. Akanksha? Akanksha, please.
Yeah, Akanksha asked that is there any difference between capillary electrophoresis and normal electrophoresis? So Akanksha, I'm sorry, I'm not well aware about that. Actually, right now, my role is mostly organized or associated with in breeding. But surely I will study about that, and I will come back to you. Just
Yeah,
share.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Another question is that is from the Meena Wankhede.
Yeah.
Meena Wankhede.
Yeah, she asked that does DS technology applied in vegetable crops? Yes, we applied that DS technology in vegetable crops. We are developing DH plants in cabbage, cauliflower, and hot pepper.
There is one raised hand also. Danepalkar. Danepalkar, you want to say something?
Hello, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I have raised.
Yeah, earlier it was. Yeah, now I will lower your hand. Yeah. So I think, okay, so this particularly today's topic, it was totally based on the technology. Because whenever you want to develop any entrepreneurship, first you know what are the different techniques are there. And for that, breeding it is the most important aspect. So with this note, I request Dr. Pradhapat Deshpande sir, please propose the vote of thanks.
Actually, I think Mrunalini wants to say something. Mrunalini, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to ask a question to Navdeep sir and Savardekar sir.
Yeah.
Sir, instead of setting up a lab for any this plant breeding technology, is it possible for the government institute or the private companies to give a platform to the farmers if they want to do the breeding by themselves or any training or something like that?
Actually, this is a policy decision actually. So such type of the facility is not yet made by the in the institute, also by the public sector, private sector also. So whenever we want to do all these things, you have to go for the outsourcing.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. If you want to add something?
Yeah. What actually seed companies do, actually their business means if farmers themselves if they start breeding crops for themselves, then there will be no use of seed companies. Secondly, but what breeding companies or seed companies they do, they hire the farmers where they produce seeds on the farmer's field, and then by acquiring that seed, they seed companies pack the seed and distribute into the market. There are some farmers who are so progressive or who are so developed that they breed varieties of themselves and they test it. Even they sell, those farmers sell those varieties or those hybrids locally and earn a good amount of money out of that.
So for like that, for testing, we need to outsource it, right?
Testing in which
If the farmers, like you said, the farmers by themselves, they're breeding, they're creating a new variety and they're selling it. So before selling, they would need to test it, right, sir?
For means no need to that of that, because if he's selling that variety by packing and doing by doing that method, then he has to register his company. Means there will be he may need a certification from the government to have a company. Then taxation will be there, everything means compliance part will be there. But what they do, they produce seeds of themselves and they sell that locally in that market only. Yeah, that means when you are going for the testing, then your variety should be registered.
It is related to the issue of the PPV-FRA.
PPV-FRA, yeah.
So yes, you have to register in that.
Even the state regulatories are there, administrations are there, where you have to take permission from the state government. Okay, we are targeting this variety for this particular region or this particular state. Then only you can get the certificate to sell that variety. Yeah. Right now means this news is of yesterday or day before yesterday, I guess. Government has given green signal to test this BT brinjal into 6 states. Okay. Means they will work closely with the state agriculture universities of that 6 states, and they will see means see the GM trials of that BT brinjal. So that variety, that hybrid is of Bijo Shikal seed, color seeds, where I was working before. So BSS 693 hybrid is there, and they have developed it, or they have transferred the transgene into that brinjal hybrid, and now they have got green signal to test that transgenic crop. So in that way, you need to have, means as they have registered that hybrid, okay, they have incorporated that transgene, okay. That means they have registered, they have got permission from to sell that hybrid in that 6 states. That hybrid is popular there in that 6 states, and now they have improved it for the fruit borer, and likewise that goes likewise. Okay, you need permission.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so anybody having any doubts and queries, so that
Just one small announcement is there. So I think 2-3 days I am announcing that is a link we are going to send for the feedback form. So we are not getting the 98 feedback form till today. We are getting maximum 80 or means 85 or 90 like that. So some are they are not sending this particularly the feedback form. So I request once again, because for this training program 75% attendance is essential. So we have given this particular link on the chat box. You have to respond up to that tomorrow morning. Okay.
yes, so I am now here for doing my formal job. That is the word of thanks. So first of all, I am very much thankful to Dr. Navdeep Mhatre. So after long time, I think after hearing him in the seminar, first seminar, we are again seeing him, and we are now confident that he has grasped the skills, and he has been professionally polished. So, and he has very nicely blended what is the classical genetics, what is the molecular genetics, and furthermore the application of these molecular techniques in developing the varieties, and what are the means plus and negatives in that particular we face. And I was very much happy that right from the faculty to the students, they interacted in the very proper perspective. There was a good discussion means these questions, this strike to your mind, definitely there is involvement of the students. So it was a good sign, and I hope that in the future also the students would respond. They should think over. The very aim of this seminar is to inculcate some of the seeds or the new thoughts in your mind, that how you will go for developing the new startup. So take a clue or the clue from these things, develop some good laboratories, some small scale industries, so that you will be self-reliant and you will have your own businesses. Okay. I'm very thankful to again Mr. Naudip Mhatre, Dr. Naudip Mhatre. I'm thankful to all our participants. And one more thing is that tomorrow is a Sunday. So on every Sunday there will be the holiday. So tomorrow there won't be any lecture from our end. We'll meet again at the Monday in the scheduled time, that is the 10 o'clock. As Dr. Savardekar sir has told, that you have to submit the feedback for our reference, so that we will go through that and we'll come to know whether students are exercising in seriously or not. Okay. Have a nice day. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for giving me this privilege to present myself in front of this big audience, and thanks for giving that opportunity to present myself in front of you too.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks everyone. Thanks. Bye bye. Thanks for bearing me. Thanks for hearing me.